Very welcome to today's webinar on the topic of recurring payments, or as we call it, the rise of recurring payments. And we have a great webinar today lined up for you. We have lots of information about what is actually recurring payments that are powered by open banking. We also will include a useful guide to what we believe that you ought to think about when selecting a good recurring payment solution. We will round it off with 3 real use cases that we have actually encountered during our work over the last couple of months. And before we go into the topic itself, I just wanted to give you a super brief overview of Finshark. We are an open banking provider. We are currently actually more than 40 dedicated, passionate people working with open banking solutions. Of course, a licensed provider. We are currently operational in 8 different countries, currently focusing on the Nordic market, but also starting to reach out into the European mainland as well a bit. And of course, in the bottom of everything that we are talking about today is our own infrastructure, the platform that on one side is consisting of roughly 250 integrated Nordic banks, and on the other side, all of these different solutions using these rails to the bank. So it's payment solutions, real-time data solutions, and so on. But all of that is made possible by the platform that we have been building since 2019. And I think looking into this area, I think it's super important to really choose a stable and reliable partner that knows what they're doing. Since open banking is new technology, new territory, I think it's really important that you choose a partner that is really specialized within this area. Okay, just to give you some examples, these are some of the customers that we are currently working with. We are super proud to have them as customers. I'm not going to go into any details, but it's just to give you a feeling of the different kinds of industries, sizes, types of operations, types of sales, and so on that are actually using open banking solutions right now. All right, so today's agenda then. We will be talking a bit about the current alternatives that are out there on the market to handle recurring payments. We will also, of course, go deeper into what is recurring payments powered by open banking. We will go through the customer flow. We will show you the actual sign-up flow as one of your customers, one of your users would actually see it if you were to use our recurring payment solution on your website, in an app or something, maybe initiated through an email or an SMS, fully possible, of course, as well. And we will round it off with 3 really good use cases to get your inspiration going, to get your thoughts going, as well as to how could we possibly use this in our business. Are we using recurring payments right now in any form or shape, or could we potentially get started, and how should we then do it? All right, so the agenda for today. So let's start it off with just some quick thoughts about today's options. And we are focusing on 2 main options here that are currently out and about. We have the card option, which I believe that many of you have used, maybe are using it frequently for streaming services or subscriptions and so on. And then we have what is in English at least called direct debit. And we have chosen the Swedish version here because a lot is happening with the Swedish version, which is called autogiro. But if we start with cards, I think it's really important to remember that cards are not really built for recurring revenue. And I think one of the main evidence points when it comes to this is the built-in churn that goes along with cards. The fact that they are expiring on a regular basis kind of proves that they are not really created for recurring revenue or recurring payments. And the fact that a bank account doesn't expire really kind of shows that this is something totally different that we are actually working with. The fees that go along with cards, of course, are also quite steep as compared to other options. And I think that those are also main issues. When we're looking then at autogiro, I believe that autogiro is something that has been around for many, many decades now. It has been appreciated by many once it's in place, but I would say it's almost infamous for being super tricky, super complicated to set up. It requires interacting with your bank, possibly your internet bank, forms, and so on to kind of get it going. So I would say that this is, as I mentioned, infamous for being a customer unfriendly solution. And if you remember, for all of you that participated in the webinar roughly a month ago, where we covered different payment solutions and actually did a comparison of different payment options. We did a comparison of 4 different payment options, and we used 7 different criteria to evaluate and compare these different payment options. You can recognize all of these 7 criteria here in the bottom of the slide. It's user friendliness, it's speed of settlement, it's, for instance, security and fees and so on. And I would say that looking at these options, to us at least, none of these 7, except for coverage, are actually really good when it comes to cards and Autogiro. It's only maybe coverage that through cards is really a good option. Otherwise, we believe that these options are not really future-proof recurring revenue solutions. And talking about Autogiro, this Swedish direct debit solution, what about it? We get lots and lots of questions. What is happening with Autogiro? What is happening to Bankgiro? What is going on in 2023 and so on? And the short answer is that Autogiro, along with the rest of the Giro system, was actually launched already back in 1959. So it goes a long way back. And it's also vanishing now. It's actually being dismantled. The support for all the different solutions that are based on the Giro system are being less and less updated. They are getting less and less attention. And the common, I would say, acceptance, the common view of this is that you pretty much need to have a succession plan. So if you're right now basing your recurring revenue on Autogiro, you need to have a succession plan. You need to figure out what direction should we go in the future, because this is not something that is viable, and there will not be a replacement in 2023 or 2024 that is brought about by the banks or anything like it. So we need a succession plan. All right. Now I would say we're getting into the main event. This is the main card of tonight's event. Recurring payments powered by open banking. And to begin with, we would like to give you an overview, just a kind of a summary of what is actually recurring payments using open banking. So it's a 100% digital payment solution. I think that's a good starting point. 100% digital, nothing else. So it's actually usable in all digital channels, and it's also set up and executed. Everything is digital when it comes to recurring payments. There are no forms. There's no need to meddle or interact with the internet bank. There's no need to use any form of internet bank connections or redirect or anything like that. Nothing of that is needed or required to set up a recurring payment using open banking. It's effective immediately. There's no waiting time. There's no cut-off dates during the month, and this is something we also get a lot of questions about. So maybe using direct debit, and I would say in specific Autogiro, many have experienced the problem with new customers signing up in the second half of the month. Maybe they are signing up on the 16th, or maybe on the 19th or the 25th. And all of a sudden you have this problem because we can't charge them the same month, because Autogiro takes roughly 2 weeks to set up. So that means that we either need to charge them the next month, waiting for our money. Nobody likes that, of course, thinking about cash flow. Or should we even maybe just offer our services for free just to get them going, so they won't get mad if we're charging them twice next month, and maybe they don't realize why they are charged more than the actual price per month and so on. But looking at open banking payments, they can be executed straight away. So the same day, actually the same second that somebody sets up a recurring payment, you can also execute it, of course. There's no built-in churn. As I mentioned before, bank accounts don't expire. So all the built-in churn that goes along with cards and so on is not a worry when you're looking at recurring payments using open banking. I think that's also a major point. And we will get back to that later in the webinar, talking about this guide to actually choosing a good solution. But I think it's good to maybe already now start thinking about, for how long do we expect the customer to actually be a customer? What is the lifetime span of a customer of ours? Will it be a problem that cards are expiring on a regular basis for us? The settlement speed is really quick as well. So let's say that I today initiate a recurring payment, it is executed today, then no later than tomorrow, Friday, you as the merchant, as the business will have the money. And actually we can also make it instant in many cases. That means that pretty much as soon as the payment is done, you will also have the money in your account. Super quick settlement, super good settlement, good for your cash flow, good for every part of your business, I would say. Also really a good part of the solution. Safety. I would say safety is a major concern for everybody. I was myself attending the Nordic FinTech Week in Copenhagen yesterday and the day before yesterday, and a lot of discussions are around the topic of safety. How do we avoid fraud? How do we kind of make the users feel as safe as possible? And of course, using a recurring payment, it's always signed by some form of secure customer authentication, what is normally called SCA. Here in Sweden it is Bankgiro. In Denmark, for instance, it's NemID, which is currently being replaced by MitID. So it's always using SCA, which makes sure that the customer is always secure. No risk for frauds, pretty much. And of course also great conversion with great pricing. And I mean, looking at any payment solution, those are really important factors as well. You want to make sure that the sign-up process, the setup process is quick, easy, user-friendly. And of course, you also want to make sure from a finance point of view that you are getting really good pricing, that this is a good product also when it comes to commercial terms and so on. And of course, it's also right now a mature solution in the Nordics, and I think this is an important aspect. We are dealing with new technology. In many cases, we are actually working with technology that many are a bit unfamiliar with, many are curious, many are interested, but they are still wondering how mature is it actually, is it working? And yes, it is working. And right now, out of the 9 biggest banks here in Sweden, just to take Sweden as an example, it's already live with 8 out of the 9 biggest banks, and the 9th is coming along probably within the next 30 days as well. So it's already a really mature working solution here in the Nordic region. Okay, so our belief of how a recurring payment should actually work. This is quite simple, and this is one of those slides that you can you get the feeling of how recurring revenue should be brought about. You have a customer that wants to buy something. They want to buy something and they want to start paying for it so they can consume the service or they can get the goods. So they have the option of selecting a recurring payments method. Then they set up the payment itself. They do that by going through a really simple user flow, and then after that it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on, maybe even on again. You know what I'm meaning. It just goes on. It keeps on being executed. Doesn't matter if it's every day. You could have recurring payments every day of the week, every day of the month, or if it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, even yearly, if that is the use case for some reason. But this is the super simple view of how recurring payments ought to be done. From the customer going into the purchase flow, signing up for the payment itself, and then you just feeling secure that the payment will go on and on without any credit card churn or anything like that, making sure that conversion is good and that you can trust in these recurring revenues. This is, to us at least, what recurring payments look like now in the second half of 2022 and looking forward. And another question I think is really relevant, and this could feel maybe like the smaller use case, but we get this question a lot. Is it possible to actually combine a single payment, what we call a direct payment, that is like an account-to-account payment? Can we combine that with a recurring payment at the same time? So maybe for some reason we have a campaign offering that we would like the customer to buy at the same time as they also approve the recurring setup. Because we want to have them as subscribers or members, anything like that. So can we do it in the same flow to create as little friction as possible? And of course the answer is a big yes. It's fully possible to actually combine a direct payment with a recurring payment in the same flow. The technical solution behind it is actually a basket. It's called basket signing, where we place two different payments in the same basket, in the same flow, but from the user perspective, it's just one flow. It's just one signing with their SCA method of choice, and then they're done, which means that you can sell that equipment, you can sell that one-time offering, that campaign package or whatever it is, but also make sure that you get the recurring revenue going. And we will get back to one of the use cases where that is like a really critical aspect of the setup flow. Then what about fees? Of course, fees is always something that we need to take into consideration. It's always something that sooner or later will be a part of every discussion, I would say. And in this case, we are looking at cards, and we are looking at open banking powered recurring payments. And as a general, cards normally charged at 1.5 to 3%. It could be less, it could definitely be more as well. And besides those moving fees as well, there are also different kinds of fixed fees. And this goes along with a schematic illustration here that actually shows all the different layers, all the moving parts that are actually part of a card payment, as compared to the other illustration showing the, I would say, simplicity of an open banking payment. Doesn't matter if it's a single payment or a recurring payment, it's the same flow, it's the same platform being used with the same moving parts. And that is the reason, that is the explanation why we can be roughly 50% cheaper than cards. And you can of course only imagine the amount of money you are able to actually save, that you can transfer straight down to your bottom line, switching over to recurring payments using open banking instead. So now I want to go into this demo. I want to show you what your users would actually encounter either in your app or on your site, or maybe through an SMS that you have sent them or an email. I want to show you their user experience. So first of all, they have gone into some sort of a digital channel, or maybe they are standing in your physical site as well. They are about to make a purchase, and they are presented with this option. In this case, we've actually shown an option where they get a discount depending on what kind of payment plan they decide to go with. But in the base of everything, in the background, it's recurring payments. So let's say that they go with this plan for 12 months. They decide to go along. And first of all, they are presented with a bank selection screen. So in this case, we're displaying the most common Swedish banks, but of course it's equal in Norway, Denmark, Finland, and so on. We have roughly 250 Nordic banks integrated. So this is just an example. They might have SEB as their bank, so they click SEB. If they are new customers, if they are going in through a computer, they enter their SSN number, they click continue, and now we are authorizing them against the bank. And of course, in Sweden, we use BankID. I would say 9 out of 10 are using BankID. In Denmark, as I mentioned, it's NemID being transferred or changed into MitID. So this is the SCA method of choice in your country, accepted by your bank. Finshark supports all the SCA methods in all the different markets where we are present. And the customer, the user, is presented with this account view. So they get to choose what account would I actually want to use for this recurring payment. Where would I like the subscription or the membership to be drawn from? And in this case, I'm going to choose my main account, and I'm going to sign for the second time. That's it. Recurring revenue on the way. Recurring payment set up. Everything is finished. That's it actually. So everything from the very first screen to making sure that you have the recurring payment set up, you have actually seen it. The content here, I think that is important to mention. The content here can be customized, and also in many ways the design of this can be customized to make it sure that it's as kind of coherent to your branding, to your phrasing and so on, the kind of different information that you want to display to your customers every step of the way. But this is the full flow for actually creating a recurring payment. No forms, no need to meddle with the internet bank or internet or bank apps or anything like that. This is the full flow. And then looking into what do we need to think about choosing a recurring payment solution? We have listed 5 what we believe are main factors when looking into a new recurring payment solution. And I think it doesn't really matter if you're a management team looking into this area, or if you're a marketing team looking into this area. Maybe you are heading a finance team looking into this area, or maybe you are the company's payment specialist in this area. I think that you can all pitch in and add your perspective when it comes to these different factors. So first of all, of course, the sign-up date. How do we handle sign-ups in the second half? Will we have sign-ups in the second half? Is it okay for us to wait with that payment until next month, or would we actually like to have money straight away? How much positive impact will that have on our liquidity, on our cash flow? How will it affect the customer, the user, if they all of a sudden see a double charge in the ending of next month? Will that be a positive experience, or could that potentially be a negative experience for them? So how do we handle that? And of course, how do we actually go about with the cash flow situation overall? What can we achieve if we have better settlement and better cash flow by choosing one option instead of the other? So sign-up date is one important aspect. Then we have cost, of course. So if you are a finance department looking into recurring payments, recurring revenue, of course this is one of those major questions that you will be asking yourselves. How much is it reasonable to pay for recurring revenue? And if we expand, if we have lots and lots of recurring payments, what will the pricing be then, of course? So I think cost is something that you also, of course, need to take into consideration. The third variable, the third aspect to look into, of course, is usability. From which kinds of channel do we want our customers to be able to sign up for a recurring payment? Do we have online channels? Do we have a website? Do we have an app, for instance? Would we like for them to be able to sign up in a physical venue? Do we have a store? Do we have a gym where they enter? Do we have a car dealer room where they enter into the showroom and so on? So where do we want them to set up a recurring payment? And is the payment solution viable in that channel as well? So I think also the fact that sometimes we want to combine these two, a single payment with a recurring payment. Will our payment solution support that? So can we both sell that package that gives us maybe a great margin, but also of course make sure that they sign up for that recurring revenue, because that's the main revenue stream. Can the payment solution support that? Contract length and churn. Again, how long do we expect the customer to be a customer? Will it be a problem if we have churn that is built in? How much will it affect us if, for instance, we have card recurring payments and the customer loses his or her wallet, his or her phone, where the cards are maybe then a part of Apple Pay or something like that? If they cancel all their cards and so on, how will that affect us? Will we have a problem getting them to sign up again? How much will this actually affect us? And of course, cancellation and refunds. Do we expect to be forced at some point in time to cancel? Will we lose customers? Will we then be forced to do refunds? Is it possible to actually combine the recurring payment solution with some sort of a payout refund solution? Will that simplify the user, the customer experience? Will that make it easier? Will it make it more cost efficient for us if we can combine, maybe actually reuse the account connection that we have to the recurring payments account being used by the user and so on? So I think that these are 5 really important aspects. And if you're a finance department, I would say that you might be looking at this from the more financial aspect. So how quick is the settlement? How much will it cost us? Is it possible to combine with different settlement solutions as well? Can we have a settlement account that can provide us all the money in a simplified way, making sure that we have as little administration as possible? Really good question from a financial standpoint. If you are a representative of a market team, you might be looking at it from a different point of view. Will this payment solution convert the way we want it to? Is it easy to set up? Can we actually face and interact with the customer in the channels where we want to drive them towards, where we have the actual traffic? Can we sign up customers in all the different channels where we interact with them? Can we also combine online and offline channels as well? And of course, if you're a management team, you might be looking at the whole picture, making sure that you cover all those different angles. All right, getting more and more towards the end of the webinar, we have 3 different use cases that we have encountered. Actually, we have encountered all of these use cases during the fall, because these are really current, I would say current affairs, current events, current discussions that we're having with lots of different companies that are looking into switching from some sort of let's say, previous form of recurring payment into open banking powered recurring payments. So the first one, embedded insurance. And this might sound a bit complicated, embedded insurance, but what it means actually is that you are selling a service, you are selling a product, and somewhere along the line of that customer interaction, of that purchase, that customer journey, you're also offering them an insurance. You want to offer them either maybe an insurance for that specific product, or you're providing them with insurance that goes along with the consumption of the service. So maybe you're selling a travel, and you want to make sure that they also have the option of signing up for some sort of a travel insurance. That is called embedded insurance. And in many cases, actually, the margin on that insurance product is a lot higher than the actual main service or the main product. So it's all about bundling and using different products in your customer journey. So as you can see here, it's a description of the customer journey of the whole use case. But I would say the main thing about this is you want to make sure that it's super convenient for the customer, the end user, to go from the main product, the main solution, and then also signing up for this recurring subscription-based insurance product. You want to make sure that it's super convenient. You want to make sure that it doesn't feel complicated, lengthy, or tricky in any way, because in many cases they will drop off, or they will think, I'm going to do it at a later point in time, I will get back to that, and that's probably not going to happen. So you want to make sure that they just smoothly transfer from the main product into the insurance product that is then set up on a recurring revenue basis, using, for instance, recurring payments powered by open banking. And there's of course a lot of advantages with this, and I would say the main advantage is a super convenient way to convert customers, to make sure that you have a really high conversion rate of people also buying this insurance product, where you have great margins. We then have, I would say, the use case that many of us maybe think of when we think of recurring payments, the subscription service. And of course, in this case, you want to make sure that you can get a recurring payment in any channel that you're actually engaging with your user. Doesn't matter if it's a website or in an app or some other form of subscription. You want to make sure that you can interact with the customer straight away, and that they are able to set up their recurring revenue, and that it doesn't really matter if it's 99 crowns or 999 crowns, or for that instance 9,000 euros, for instance. It shouldn't be any limitations when it comes to amounts or anything like that. So in this case, of course, pretty much the same advantages, because it works in all these different use cases. And I would say a main advantage when you're looking at subscriptions, in many cases, the company, the merchant, of course, is hoping that the customer will stay on for many, many years. And you want to make sure that you don't get a lot of churn due to the fact that credit cards are expiring. And I myself, I'm also a customer of different streaming services, and I'm annoyed by all those different boxes, pop-up windows and so on that are kind of always prompting me to change payment option, because my payment method will expire in 6 months, 5 months, 4 months and so on. And of course, it's all due to the fact that the merchant is aware of the major risk that I will not change payment method, and therefore I will not be a customer anymore. They will lose me just by a passive reason. And again, bank accounts don't expire. Let's just get rid of that built-in churn straight away. The last use case here, gym membership. And I think this is really cool as well, because when it comes to gym memberships, they used to be, I would say, bought or initiated in a physical venue, going into the gym, becoming a member over the counter there, and then going off to exercise and so on. But nowadays, it's mostly done online instead, through a website or some other digital channel where you sign up. So you don't actually go into the physical venue, but it's great to be able to combine an online setup with also an offline setup. So actually, in this case, using a recurring payment solution that can be initiated through the website with the flow that I just showed you a couple of minutes ago, but also gives you the opportunity of initiating the same recurring payment in the physical gym. I think that's a major advantage. So let's say that you have a simple QR code at the reception in the gym, or the receptionist or whoever is actually taking care of the new member says, I'm going to send you a text. You just follow the link in the text and you will be a member in 30 seconds or less, and then you can just set up, you can go and exercise and so on. But then again, you can also combine this with a single payment. So let's say that you on your site, you have some sort of a beginner's package or some sort of a campaign. If you sign up now, we will also provide you with this super great barbell or super cool equipment or whatever. You can actually make sure that that same purchase is handled in the same flow as the recurring payment. No need for tricky multiple payments or anything like that. You can use it in the same flow and get all of those purchases done at the same time. This, I would say, is a great use case for recurring payments as well. So to summarize once again, what is a recurring payment powered by open banking? So to begin with, it is a 100% digital payment. It is a payment solution that requires no forms, sheets, no meddling with the internet bank, no meddling with any bank apps for that matter. So it's super simple to set up from any channel that you actually want to deploy it into. It can be executed immediately, so there's no cutoff times, no waiting times, no need to, let's say, disable this payment solution by the end of the month because it could potentially cause troubles otherwise. You can just keep on collecting new recurring payments using this solution no matter the date of the month. Of course, there is no built-in churn, as I mentioned previously. There is no bank account churn. Bank accounts don't expire. And of course, the settlement speeds are either quick or really quick, so either the day after, or you can actually through Finshark have instant settlement if you are looking for that. Another great thing I would say is the safety aspect of it as well. It's really safe both for the user, always using strong customer authentication, such as here in Sweden Bankgiro, or in Denmark, for instance, NemID, and soon to be MitID. And of course also safe for the merchants as well. The conversion is great so far. We're looking at conversion rates roughly around 95%, I would say way above most other payment solutions, no matter which payment solution you pretty much compare it to. And of course, not to be forgotten, the pricing is also really attractive, looking at roughly 50% or at sometimes even better pricing compared to other payment solutions that you can use for recurring payments. And already now a mature solution all over the Nordic countries. And as you know, Finshark is operating in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, soon also moving into France, Netherlands, Spain and Germany. But already now, all over the Nordic countries, this is a mature solution, good to go. And today, that's our main message. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot for participating. Thanks a lot for your interest in recurring payments. Hope to speak soon again. Bye.